The air was cold, near the edge of the old Earth spaceport. Cargo ships came and went, loud engines shaking the ground. But in one quiet corner behind the supply yard, something was not right. Jack Turner heard it first, a soft, broken cry, like a small animal or a scared child. He paused, holding a metal pipe he had just taken from the junk pile. The sound came again, from behind stacked crates and a pile of space trash. No one else seemed to notice or care. But Jack was not like most people. He slowly walked toward the sound, boots crunching against old metal and wires. As he turned the corner, his heart nearly stopped. There, hidden in the shadows, were two tiny figures. Children, not human, but definitely children. Their skin was pale silver, marked with faint glowing lines. Their eyes were wide, glowing a soft blue in the dark. They looked thin, dirty, and afraid. One was a girl, clutching her brother tightly. The boy was shivering, his arms around his knees. Jack didn't say anything at first. He knew alien kids sometimes ended up on Earth, smuggled or lost. Most were thrown away like junk. He'd seen it before. People called them space rats, to him. They looked like children who needed help. He knelt slowly, trying not to scare them. "Hey," he said gently. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl's eyes locked onto his. Watching, testing, the boy whimpered, pressing his face into her side. They didn't speak. Jack noticed they wore torn clothes. No shoes, no bags, nothing. Like they had been running, hiding for a long time. "Are you hungry?" Jack asked softly, reaching into his jacket. He pulled out a protein bar, half melted but still good. He tore the wrapper slowly, showing it to them, then placed it on the ground and backed away. The girl stared at the bar, then at Jack. She slowly reached out, snatched the food, and gave it to her brother first. He bit into it like a wild animal. Then she took a small bite herself. Shaking, Jack watched in silence. He couldn't just leave them there. But if he called the authorities, the kids would be taken, maybe sold, maybe worse. Earth wasn't always kind to aliens, especially poor ones. He took a deep breath, then said, "I have a small ship nearby. It's warm. There's more food. You don't have to come, but if you want to, I'll keep you safe." The girl blinked, then looked at her brother. They whispered something in a strange language, soft, musical. Finally, she gave a slow nod. Jack led them quietly across the backlot to his old cargo ship. It wasn't much rusty, patched, barely flying, but it was home to him. As the door opened, warm air rushed out and both children flinched. But when they stepped inside, their eyes widened. It was simple, but cozy. He gave them blankets, heated up canned stew, and watched them eat slowly, carefully. They sat close. Together, always touching, always alert. Jack noticed something else. The girl had a scar on her arm, shaped like a strange symbol, and when she got close to a scanner on the wall, it blinked just once, then went dark. He didn't mention it. He just said, "You can sleep in that corner. It's soft. I'll be right over here if you need anything." As the lights dimmed and night fell, Jack sat at his table. Staring at an old photo of his wife, he whispered, "I don't know what I just did, Sarah, but I couldn't leave them." Behind him, he heard a small voice. "Please." "No throwaway." He turned. Surprised, the girl stood there, eyes wide, her little hand clutching his shirt. Jack swallowed hard, his voice quiet. "I won't," he said. "You're safe now." She didn't smile, but her grip loosened. She walked back to her brother and curled up beside him. Jack sat there a long time. Outside, the stars moved silently over Earth, but inside, something had changed, something big. He didn't know it yet. But those two alien children were more than just lost. They were the last of something ancient, something royal, and the moment Jack chose to help them, the whole galaxy quietly began to shift. Asterisk, the sun rose slowly over the edge of the city skyline. Jack's ship, the Rustwing, sat quietly between broken cargo haulers and forgotten machines. Inside, it was warmer now, filled with the smell of leftover stew and old metal. Jack rubbed his tired eyes as he stood up from his sleeping chair. He hadn't slept much, not with two alien children sleeping only a few steps away. The girl was curled up like a cat, arms around her little brother. The boy had stopped shaking, finally resting without fear. Jack didn't even know their names. Still, something in his chest felt different, like a missing piece had been quietly placed back. He made breakfast, something soft and warm. When the smell reached the corner of the room, two sets of glowing blue eyes peeked up from under the blanket. Jack gave a small smile, holding out two warm bowls. "Good morning," he said. "Hope you're hungry." The girl stood first, cautious but curious. She took the bowls and gave one to her brother. They ate slowly, carefully, watching Jack. With every bite, after a moment, the girl looked up, her voice low. "Kiri," she said, placing a hand on her chest. Then she pointed to the boy, "Luno." Jack's smile grew. "Kiri and Luno." He repeated, "I'm Jack," that morning. Jack gave him simple clothes from his old storage locker. They were too big, but Kiri tied hers up with a cord, and Luno didn't seem to mind. He found a broken toy bot, rewired it, and gave it to Luno, who giggled as it waddled around for the first time. They looked like kids, not survivors, not lost royalty, just kids over the next few days. A rhythm formed. Jack taught them how to use the food heater, how to wash their hands, how to speak better English. They watched old cartoons and laughed at strange human humor. They danced when Jack played Earth music and sometimes drew stars on the wall with glowing chalk. Jack also noticed strange things. Kiri's eyes would flash a brighter blue when she was thinking hard. Luno could fix wires with tiny fingers faster than Jack could with tools. And one night, the ship's control panel blinked open when Kiri touched it. No password needed. But Jack said nothing. He didn't want to scare them. He just wanted them safe. He fixed up the ship's second cabin, gave them proper bedding, and installed a nightlight shaped like a moon. They smiled when they saw it. That night, as Jack passed the cabin door, he heard a soft sound. "Papa," Luno whispered in his sleep. Jack froze. His chest tightened. He leaned back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. He had never wanted kids, not after losing Sarah. He had buried that dream with her, long ago. But now, two alien children had brought it back, without asking. And he didn't want to let go of it again. The next morning, they went into the city for supplies. People stared, some whispered, some frowned. Jack kept the twins close, glaring at anyone who looked too long at a small food stall. The seller refused to serve them. "No aliens," he snapped. "Especially not space rats." Kiri lowered her head, and Luno gripped Jack's arm tightly. Jack didn't argue. He just walked to another stall, one run by an old friend who gave them food with a kind smile. As they walked back to the ship, Luno asked, "Why do they hate us?" Jack looked down, his voice soft, "Because they don't understand you." He knelt and placed a hand on Luno's shoulder. "But I do." That night, Jack sat at the table with a pen and paper. He wrote slowly, carefully, "Adoption request." Form unofficial. He chuckled to himself. He knew it wasn't legal, but it felt right. He signed his name, folded the paper, and placed it inside a small metal box. It was a promise. When he walked back to their cabin, he found both Kiri and Luno waiting at the door. "Jack," Kiri said quietly, "can we stay here forever?" Jack knelt beside them, his eyes gentle. "As long as you want," he said. "This is your home now." Kiri smiled a real smile, wide and bright. Luno hugged Jack tightly, his small arms wrapping around the man's waist. In that moment, Jack didn't feel broken anymore. He didn't feel alone. He had a family again, far above, in the quiet dark of space, a signal quietly blinked. Old systems stirred, ancient codes unlocked. The bloodline had survived, and the galaxy had just found its next rulers. But down on Earth, inside a rusty cargo ship, none of that mattered yet. Right now, all that mattered was a warm room, full bellies, and the sound of laughter echoing through the hull. It was supposed to be a normal supply run. Jack had taken Kiri and Luno to the outer scrapyard, to quiet place where old ship parts were dumped and forgotten. He was looking for a replacement part for the water filter. The twins loved coming here, especially Luno, who liked crawling through old machines and touching everything. "Stay close," Jack warned as he dug through a pile of bent panels. Kiri nodded, but her eyes were already scanning the nearby wrecks with curiosity. Luno was hopping from one broken droid to another, giggling every time a spark popped out. The place was silent except for the wind and the occasional clang of metal. But then, something strange happened. Kiri stopped in front of a large round piece of black metal half buried in dirt and rust. It was smooth, too smooth. It didn't look like anything else in the yard. There were markings on it, faint, glowing symbols that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. "Jack," she called softly. "What is this?" Jack turned and walked over, brushing off the dust the moment he touched it. Nothing happened, but when Kiri placed her hand on the surface, the metal lit up. A circle of light formed around her fingers. A hum filled the air, a sound deep and old, like a machine waking up after sleeping for centuries. Then suddenly, a pulse of blue light shot into the sky like a flare. It vanished in seconds, but it was too late. The signal had been sent. Jack stared in shock. "What did you just do?" he asked. I don't know," Kiri whispered, pulling her hand back quickly. "I felt something, like it knew me." Luno was staring at her, his eyes wide. "Your hand." "It glowed," he said, pointing. Jack looked around nervously. "Okay, we're done here. We need to go now." They rushed back to the ship, but Jack couldn't stop thinking about that signal. That night, while the twins were asleep, he hacked into his old scanner system and checked nearby transmissions. There it was, strange energy burst detected only hours ago, coming from the scrapyard. But more than that, something had responded. A distant beacon, far across space, had blinked to life for the first time in decades. It belonged to a royal AI system known as the Miriel Crown Network, and it had just confirmed a match. Jack sat frozen, his fingers hovering above the keyboard. "Miriel," he whispered. "That name sounds familiar." He opened an old galactic database. The Miriel Empire, once rulers of 6 star systems, had fallen over 20 years ago in a bloody civil war. The royal family had been hunted and wiped out, or so everyone thought, but according to the file, 2 royal heirs had gone missing. During the final attack, their names had never been made public. Jack leaned back in his chair, staring at the cabin door where the twins were sleeping. Kiri and Luno, glowing eyes, strange marks, forgotten symbols. Could it really be them? He didn't want to believe it. He didn't want this to be bigger than it already was. But deep inside, he knew they were not just lost children. They were the last of a fallen empire. The next day, he ran a DNA scan while pretending to check Kiri's health. When the results came in, his heart almost stopped. The genetic code matched ancient royal sequences stored in restricted archives. There was no doubt now. Jack knew he had a choice to make. He could stay quiet, pretend he didn't know, and try to live a normal life. Or he could prepare for whatever storm was coming, far away on a hidden moon surrounded by broken satellites. An ancient AI core opened its eyes. It had waited many years for the royal bloodline to return, now that the signal had come. It began sending messages to old loyalists and hiding places. "The heirs live," the message said. "Prepare for restoration." But not everyone who received the signal was a friend. On a dark warship orbiting a dying star, a man watched the transmission with cold eyes. The bloodline was supposed to be gone. He said, "Send hunters to Earth, back on Jack's ship." Luno crawled into the cockpit with a drawing in hand. "Look," he said proudly, showing Jack a picture he made. It showed 3 figures, Jack, Kiri, and Luno standing on a small ship, flying between stars. Above them was a golden crown and a planet shaped like a heart. Jack took the drawing and smiled, though his mind was heavy. "I think we're in for one crazy ride," he whispered. He didn't tell the kids yet. He didn't want to scare them, but in his heart, he knew their quiet life was about to change. And this time, he wouldn't just be their protector. He would be their shield against the whole galaxy. The stars above Earth looked peaceful. But Jack knew better. Ever since Kiri touched that strange device, things had changed. The kids were still laughing, drawing on walls, playing with old tools. But Jack couldn't relax anymore, not even for a moment. He had installed scanners around the ship, activated defense programs he hadn't used in years. Every strange beep made his heart race. Every whisper of static from space made him reach for his blaster. Then one night, the warning alarm blared. Jack jumped out of bed and ran to the cockpit. An unidentified ship was entering Earth's atmosphere, fast, quiet, unregistered, too smooth to be a traitor, too silent to be military. It was a hunter. "Kiri, Luno, wake up," Jack said sharply, grabbing his gear. The kids looked confused but obeyed. He handed them small travel packs he had prepared, just in case. "Stay close, don't talk, and whatever happens, don't run away from me." The sky outside turned red as the enemy ship landed near the scrapyard. Jack knew hiding was useless now. He led the kids to a secret tunnel below the cargo ban old smuggler path. They crawled in just as footsteps landed above them, through the metal floor. Jack could hear the clinking of armor, voices speaking in a harsh, alien language. "They're scanning the ship," he whispered, pulling the kids close. Luno was shaking. Kiri was staring ahead, silent but alert. Jack had seen this look before. It was fear but also focus. Suddenly, the hatch above burst open. A hunter dropped down, tall and covered in black armor. He held a plasma spear in one hand and a scanner in the other. Jack recognized him, a Wrecker-class bounty tracker, expensive and deadly. The hunter scanned the cabin, then growled. "No signs of life inside," he muttered. But as he turned to leave, his scanner flashed red, blood trace detected. He stepped forward, and Jack knew hiding time was over. He whispered, "Stay," then kicked the tunnel door open and rolled out. Blaster in hand, the hunter turned just in time to get shot in the chest. The armor sparked, but it held. Jack fired again and again, forcing the hunter back. The fight was loud, brutal, fast. Jack moved like a soldier. Even though he hadn't been one in years, he used crates for cover, wires to trip the enemy, and finally blasted the reactor core. Behind him, the explosion threw the hunter into the wall. Unconscious, Jack didn't wait. He grabbed the kids and ran. They escaped into the city, blending into the night crowds. By morning, they were in a safe house far from the shipyard. Jack patched up his wounds and sat by the window, scanning the news. Unidentified explosion near junk sector. The report said no casualties reported, but Jack knew more would come. That hunter wasn't working alone. He turned to the twins. "You both need to know something," he said. He told them everything: the royal DNA, the signal, the Miriel Empire. At first, they were silent. Then Kiri looked down at her hand, the same hand that had lit the device. "That's why they're hunting us?" she asked. "Yes," Jack said. "You're not just lost kids. You're heirs to a throne that some people would kill to keep buried." Luno looked scared. "I don't want a throne," he said. "I just want to stay with you." Jack smiled. "Sadly, and I want to keep you safe, but the galaxy won't let us hide anymore. We need to move." He opened a dusty locker and pulled out an old space map. "We're going off-world," he said. "We'll find the crown core, the one that sent the signal back. If we reach it, we'll find answers. Maybe allies, maybe a way to stop all this." Kiri nodded slowly. "If we run forever, we'll never be free," she said. Jack saw something change in her eyes. Not just a child now, but a leader slowly waking up inside her. The next day, they returned to the ship under cover of night. Jack reprogrammed the navigation and launched into orbit as the ship climbed past the clouds. Earth disappeared behind them. Ahead was a long road filled with danger, secrets, and forgotten history. In the quiet of space, Kiri sat beside Jack. "Do you think they'll follow us?" she asked. Jack looked at her and smiled. "They'll try," he said, "but this time, we're ready." Far across the stars, the man who had sent the hunter stood before a dark council. "They escaped Earth," he said, voice full of anger. "But now they're coming to us," he smiled, cruel and cold. "Let them come." The stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Jack's ship, the Rustwing, floated between them like a tiny speck. Inside, the hum of the engine was steady, but Jack's heart was not. He sat at the controls, his eyes scanning star charts and old coordinates. Kiri sat beside him, silent and alert. Luno was in the back, drawing stars and planets on the wall with glowing ink. They had escaped Earth. But they hadn't escaped the danger. Not yet. Their destination was far an abandoned moon in the Varian sector. According to the Royal Archives, a Crown Core AI was hidden there. If it still worked, it could confirm the children's identity. Maybe even help them reclaim their birthright. Jack didn't care about crowns. He cared about keeping them alive. But deep down, he knew the only way to protect them was to let them rise. As they traveled, Kiri's dreams grew strange. She saw flashes of tall golden halls, crowds bowing, her own voice speaking in a language she had never learned. One night, she woke up with tears in her eyes. "I was wearing a crown," she whispered. Jack sat beside her, rubbing her shoulder. "I think your past is starting to remember you," he said. She looked at him, voice shaking. "What if I become someone else?" "You won't," Jack said firmly. "No matter what changes, you'll always be Kiri. And I'll always be here." Meanwhile, Luno began fixing parts of the ship without being asked. He spoke to the engine like it was alive. It responded better to him than to Jack. One morning, Jack found Luno humming softly while wires floated around him, glowing and moving on their own. Jack just stared and whispered, "What are you, kid?" But he already knew they were not just heirs. They were something new, powerful, ancient, and waking up fast. 2 days later, the alarm rang again. A ship was following them, fast, cloaked, and closing in. Jack kicked the engine into full speed. But the enemy was gaining. He turned to the kids. "Time to show me what you've got." Kiri nodded and ran to the rear turret. She had never fired a weapon before, but her hands moved like they remembered. Luno crawled under the control panel. Linking his mind to the system, Jack flew through an asteroid belt, dodging rocks and blaster fire. The enemy ship fired. One hit struck their wing. Sparks flew, systems blinked, alarms screamed, but Luno shouted, "I can fix it, just hold steady." Kiri fired back, the turret glowing with each blast. She hit one of the enemy's engines, it sparked and spun out of control. Jack twisted the controls hard, flying them through a narrow asteroid crack. The enemy ship tried to follow but struck a rock and exploded in a bright flash. Silence. Returned, Jack exhaled deeply, hands shaking. They were still alive, barely. He turned back and saw Kiri climbing down from the turret. Her hands smoking, Luno crawled out from under the panel, smiling proudly. "Ship is okay," he said, "mostly." Jack walked over and hugged them both. "I don't know how you two did that," he said, "but I'm glad you did. Later that night, while they repaired the ship, a small, glowing cube fell out from Luno's backpack. It pulsed with soft, golden light. Jack picked it up. "Where did this come from?" he asked. Luno shrugged. "It was in the secret place on Earth, the old scrapyard. It was calling to me." Jack placed it on the table. The cube opened, projecting a map. In the center was the moon they were heading to. Around it were words. In an ancient alien script, Kiri read them aloud slowly. "Only true heirs may awaken the crown." Jack looked at both kids. "Looks like we've got the key," he said. A few days later, they reached the moon. It was cold, gray, and lifeless, just floating in darkness. But deep below the surface, something waited. As they landed, the ship's scanner showed a structure buried under the ice. It pulsed once, just once, like it had felt their presence. Jack stared at the readings. "It knows you're here," he said. "Let's go say hello." The hatch opened, wind howled. Stars blinked above. Jack, Kiri, and Luno stepped out into the alien snow. Behind them, the galaxy stirred. Ahead of them, destiny waited. The ice crunched under their boots as Jack, Kiri, and Luno moved slowly across the frozen moon. Cold was sharp, but the glowing cube in Luno's hand kept pulsing with warm light. It was guiding them toward something buried deep below, something waiting. They reached a smooth patch of ground where the ice shimmered like glass. The cube floated from Luno's palm and hovered over the surface. Then a soft humming began. A circle of symbols lit up beneath their feet, bright and gold, without warning. The ice split apart and lowered like an elevator. Kiri grabbed Jack's hand, and Luno pressed against his side. They descended into the darkness, the cube leading the way. Jack didn't know where they were going, but deep inside, he knew this place was ancient and alive. The walls around them glowed with soft patterns. Lines of light moved like water. Images formed scenes of a grand empire, of kings and queens with glowing eyes, and among them, a pair of twin children. The platform finally stopped at a giant golden door. At its center was the same mark that Kiri had on her arm. She stepped forward and placed her hand against it. The door opened without a sound. Inside was a vast chamber, round and filled with floating crystals and glowing machines. In the middle stood a tall structure, part throne, part control center, and sitting on it was something not quite alive, not quite dead, an ancient AI construct shaped like a woman. In silver robes, her eyes opened slowly as they entered. She looked at Kiri and Luno, and then spoke in a voice that echoed like music. "Blood of the royal line," she said. "You have returned." Kiri stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" "I am the Crown Core," the AI said, "keeper of the royal memory, protector of the Muriel legacy. I have waited 23 Earth years for your signal." Jack stepped closer, unsure. These kids were hiding in a scrapyard, eating trash, he said. "Why are they so important?" The AI turned her gaze to him. "You are their guardian," she said, "and more loyal than any soldier who came before you. These children are the last heirs to the Muriel throne. Their survival is the galaxy's last chance for balance." Kiri and Luno looked at each other, confused and scared. "We don't know how to be rulers." Kiri said softly, "We're just kids." The AI floated toward them, placing her glowing hand over their heads. "You carry not just blood, but memory. It is locked deep inside you. Let me awaken it." Jack stepped forward, alarmed. "Wait, what will that do to them?" The AI looked at him with calm eyes. "They will not forget who they are, but they will remember who they were." Kiri nodded slowly. "I want to know," she said. Luno hesitated, but then nodded too. The AI placed a hand on each of their foreheads. The chamber filled with light. Symbols floated in the air. Memories flooded their minds. Golden halls, kind voices, royal songs, training, languages, codes, promises. All returned like puzzle pieces snapping into place. Kiri gasped and dropped to her knees. Luno's eyes glowed like stars. Jack rushed to them, but the AI stopped him gently. "They are strong," she said. "They will not break." When the light faded, Kiri stood up slowly, her back straighter, her eyes deeper. She looked at Jack not as a child, but as someone ancient and wise. "I remember," she said. "Not everything, but enough." Luno stood beside her, holding her hand. His voice was quiet but steady. "I remember the fall, the fire, the betrayal." Jack looked at them both, a mix of pride and fear in his chest. "You're different," he whispered, "but you're still you." Kiri stepped forward and hugged him tightly. "We're still your kids," she said, "but we're also something more." The AI extended her hand and revealed a floating crown, made of crystal and light. It shimmered. "With energy, the Empire waits," she said. "Your enemies gather, but so do your people." Kiri reached out, but stopped. "I won't wear this until I've earned it," she said. The AI smiled, spoken like a true queen. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. A voice shouted from above. "Unidentified ships entering orbit, 10 vessels, hostile signatures." Jack's face darkened. "They found us." The AI's tone changed. "You must leave now." "I will lock this place again, but take this." She handed Jack a crystal. "Shaped like a heart, this will lead you to the old Miriel fleet. Hidden beyond the rim, with it, you may stand against what comes." The floor rose beneath them as the golden doors closed again. Above, the ship's systems lit up as they prepared to launch. Kiri and Luno stood at the controls now. No longer passengers, but leaders. Jack looked at them. "You ready to fight for your future?" Kiri smiled. "With you at our side." She said, "Always." And with that, the Rustwing roared into the sky behind them. The crown core went dark once more, but above them, war waited, and the galaxy held its breath. The stars lit up like fireflies as the Rustwing tore through space. Behind it, a fleet of dark warships closed in, faster with every second. Jack tightened his grip on the controls, sweat running down his face. "This is it," he muttered. No more running. Kiri stood beside him. Wearing the crystal pendant from the crown core, it pulsed like a heartbeat, sending out a silent signal across the stars. Luno was already linked to the ship's systems, glowing symbols floating around his hands. Their little bodies held the power of an empire now. They had to use it. Ahead of them, space shimmered. A portal opened like a blooming flower. And through it came a miracle ships. Dozens of them, old Miriel royal warcrafts, once lost. Now awakened, the fleet heard us, Kiri said. Eyes wide, the pendant had called them. The last loyal ships had returned, but the enemy was not afraid. The dark warships opened fire. Energy blasts lighting up the void. Jack dodged and weaved, yelling, "Get to battle positions." Kiri climbed into the command seat, her voice suddenly strong and royal. "All ships, defend the flame of the Miriel line," she ordered. Her voice echoed through the comms like thunder. The fleet obeyed instantly. Luno linked with the ship's targeting system, his tiny hands glowing as he moved energy like a wave. Cannons fired with perfect timing, hitting the enemy in their weak spots. Jack had never seen anything like it. The sky became a battlefield. Lasers lit up like storms. Ships exploded like dying stars. But the Miriel fleet was smarter, faster live, and at the center of it all. Two small children led the charge. One of the enemy ships broke through and dove straight at the Rustwing. Jack gritted his teeth and pulled the ship into a barrel roll. Kiri activated the crystal. It flared, forming a shield around them. The enemy's weapon blast bounced off harmlessly. Jack laughed. "You kids are amazing." But they weren't done yet. At the edge of the battle, a massive command vessel appeared. It was the Hunter's Master Lord, Malvek, the one who had ordered the royal family's destruction. His voice came through the speakers, cold and sharp. "Give up the heirs, and I will spare your lives." Kiri stood up, eyes burning. "I am Princess Kiri of the Miriel bloodline. You destroyed my family, hunted my people. But we are not afraid of you anymore," Luno added. "You wanted us gone. But we're still here," Jack smirked. "And you've picked the wrong dad to mess with." The final battle began. Kiri directed the fleet, remembering old royal battle formations from the memories the AI had given her. Luno overloaded the enemy systems with viral codes, crashing 2 ships from inside. Jack led the charge, flying like a ghost through wreckage and enemy fire. The Miriel fleet struck like lightning. Lord Malvek's ships began to fall one by one. His voice grew desperate, full of rage. "This is not possible," he shouted. "You're just children." "No," Kiri said calmly. "We're the future." Jack fired the final blast into Malvek's ship. It exploded in silence, fire blooming in space. The enemy fleet scattered, leaderless, broken. Silence returned. Only the stars remained, watching, inside the rust wing. Kiri and Luno sat quietly, their eyes full of tears, not from fear, but from relief. Jack turned his chair and looked at them. "You did it," he said. "You both did it," Kiri whispered. "We couldn't have without you." Back at the Crown Core moon, the AI reactivated. The message was sent across all systems. "The heirs have risen. The throne is no longer empty." All across the galaxy, old allies began to step forward. People remembered the royal family, remembered peace, and they remembered hope. Weeks later, a ceremony was held on the capital planet. Kiri stood before millions, wearing a new crown knot heavy with gold, but woven with starlight and purpose. Luno stood beside her, his eyes calm and focused. They didn't speak of war or revenge. They spoke of rebuilding, unity, and honor. And when they were asked who raised them, who protected them when no one else did, Kiri pointed into the crowd. "To him," she said. "The human who gave us a name before we had a crown." Jack stood at the back, uncomfortable in his new clothes. But when Luno ran up and grabbed his hand, pulling him forward, he didn't resist. The crowd cheered. Not just for royalty, but for a man who saw children behind dirty faces and gave the stars back their future.